Hello, this is Brian Simonson, and this is a series of videos doing a demo of the report writer. We have been working our way through the various functionalities of the report writer, getting it up and running for an example project. We are on to the big one, which is making a table. The reason you'll see it's a little involved is because there's multiple ways to make a table. Tables are never quite perfect. When you try manually copying a table from Excel to Word, you'll see it's always a little off, a little different. It's squirrely, right? So there's a couple ways to do it. For this demo, we're going to focus on, we will call it copying and pasting, quote unquote. And it's basically doing that concept, basically copying what you have in a range and placing it into the document. There's another way where you create a table in Word, like a template, a shell, a skeleton, and then you populate the numbers after that. You take the numbers straight from this Excel sheet and you literally place them in individually into that table. That will produce a perfect replication of styles. So what the skeleton looks like, that's what you'll get. Very powerful. We will be doing follow-on videos as kind of an offshoot later on. But right now we're just trying to get a big lift here of this report writer. How do we get it running? Very often, if you just have a few tables and a copying and pasting is very powerful and useful. You can get almost near perfect replication of what you want. And it also actually allows you even more flexibility in that you can actually change the number of columns can change in a table. You can be very dynamic. So this is the most powerful version, I think, copying and pasting basically. So let's dive into that application. Without any further ado, let's cram through this, right? First, we're going to talk about this particular table, table 1. We only have to do one table, so let's make it a good one. We're going to go to the report numbers tab, and you'll see 13 parameters. Yes, believe it or not. However, really half of them are kind of for one way, and the other half roughly are for the other way of making the tables, right? Today we're doing copy and pasting tables. So some of this is pretty simple. Table ID, very simple. Table 001, done. Description, table 1, done. The sheet it's in, table 1. We are flying, folks. Table range, put on the brakes. That sounds a lot like what we did in the last video, right? We gotta know the range. So we are gonna, again, go to our scratch sheet of paper that is the chart ranges. If you want to do it some other way, you can, by the way, but why not just do it here? Because this is where you're always sculpting what the ranges would be for your charts and tables. I'm going to just go ahead and build off this. It's a little bit of cheating, but I'm going to call this table 001. The tab is table 1. The number of columns. Notice there's a little comment here on number of columns. We'll get into that in a second because this is kind of useful for tables. This is where this is required. When we get to creating 508 compliant tables, I'm working on a way that this isn't necessary. The importance of this field. We'll get into it later. But right now, there's a very simple table. It's a 2-column table, right? Number of rows, including the label. Let's see how many there are. It should be 4, right? And that's what this is doing. It is, again, counting the number of data points, including X's, adds in the row, the label row. Over here, it was counting up the number of garbage lines, really, and then subtracts those garbage lines right back out and says there's 4 rows in the table really ends on row 4. And so you have a next column, stops in column B, that's true. So our range is, and I do a little concatenation, goes from A1 to E, meaning B4, all true. So the point is, if you're reading new data, this range will be dynamic and update. Assuming, of course, here, by the way, we're only going up to, our table will never exceed over 10 rows of data. You can expand this logic depending on what your table is. Moving on. So we just got that done. So we're going to report numbers, and now we have our table range. So that's simply equal to that. Okay, now that's the guts, right? We've said where the range is, what the tag is, what needs to be moved. Now, some of these are a little out of order, and that's just based on how the report writer is built over time. A little, you'll see how a little off, right? So, what you have here is the fit to window and center. So these are a couple formatting things when only copy and pasting was available, basically for a report writer. Two of the major functionalities was whether when you copy a table, you'll notice sometimes you need to make it, you want to fit it perfectly to the page, or sometimes it aligns it to the left and you really want it center typically with a chart. So when you paste a chart, it's always going to be on the left side. Most of the time you want to center it, right? So often, and since we are dealing with copy and pasting today, we want to populate these. So first thing is, we do not want to fit this to a window. The little comment here pointing out that the center concept only works, well, you can't center and fit to the window, right? You're doing one of the two. So, because there's nothing to center if you fit it to the window. So if the fitting to the window is false, the report writer will want to know if you want to center it. In this case, we're going to say true. You could say false if you wanted your chart off to the left. Okay. Next, column T says word table template. What does that mean? It means you're putting that skeleton table into your document, right? That's the type of table you're going to be making. We're not doing that, right? We're not putting this blank table that we're going to populate. We have our table in Excel. So when it says, do you have a table template in Word? The answer is no, right? We're going to copy and paste this bad boy. So we're going to say false. Table type. Well, table type only applies to when you are doing the Word template type of table, right? Because there's different ways to basically populate those skeleton tables. So we're going to skip that one today. Yay, we can actually leave something blank here. Number of rows as a header. 1. Why do you need to do this? For 5-way compliance. You need to tell, sometimes you might have more than one. There might be also merged rows if you do something wacky. I've seen some wacky tables here. In my experiences where they've decided to, for some reason, make the header row like a merge of 2 rows. You need to tell. So this is just kind of tricky stuff. So we're going to, right now, just write number of rows as a header is 1. Actually, even if you merge rows, when you put it into Word, it's still going to be 1 row in Word. Are there cases where you might have multiple rows being a header? Potentially. Most of the time, I think this will just be a 1. But it's important, I thought, to give that flexibility should the need arise. So typically, I think that 1 shall work for your 5-way compliance reasons. Next, alt text title, right? That's where you would actually put in a description of what this is. I believe typically you need a title for kind of describing what is in that table. Even though there's typically a title outside the table. So I don't know if these are necessarily needed, but you can always use it. So you can just say, I forget now actually what this is. This is ages, right? Count of employees by age, right? Right. So let me go to report numbers. Sorry. Count of employees by age. Period. There. It's going to show up there. Alt text description. You could actually put in alternative text. You could actually, if there's more information you want to give. It's just overkill. It's just another place to put descriptive information for the screen reader. We will get into 5-way compliance later as to what I think the best practice is, but it just gives you more flexibility. Finally, padding. This is kind of a big deal. What the report writer does, it takes what you have in Excel, actually. It doesn't copy and paste. It actually takes what you have in Excel, pitch perfect, and puts it into your document. you may not notice this, but when you copy and paste tables into Word, it puts a little bit of padding in the cells. It makes it a little bit nicer. Someone at Microsoft actually thought this through a little bit. Because if you notice, do we have some good examples here? There is no padding technically right here. There's no difference between one, like this one right here, and it really rides up. Excel has some padding, it looks like, but there's really no padding per se that you've actually specified. So it basically so you need to override the padding if you want to create that. And typically when you have most data is right aligned or left aligned, and you want to create a little bit of padding. To replicate the padding that you're kind of seeing with your eyes right here, is about 10 pixels. As opposed to typically, I think it would actually be a default is 1 pixel. But I leave it to the user. You might, in cases, want it, jammed up against the side for some reason. I didn't want to just put in my own, everything should be 10 pixels. Maybe you want more padding. Who knows? So we're going to use padding of 10 pixels. That should give you a nice copy paste aesthetic. And typically, you can do right, left, and top. I wouldn't recommend top. It's a little wacky, I think, in my testing that I've done. But typically, on the right and the left side, you're going to want a little bit of padding. So just type right and left, and it will pad for both the right and the left side of every cell in the table. And that is what you need. At this point, you are done. The table is ready to go. Obviously, that seemed like a lift, but I was talking through every element. If you were doing now 50 tables, you could copy this down, very quickly and probably do a table every minute and be done in an hour with a 50 table report. So at this point, I think all we have to do is go to the report, the actual report, and put in table, like Hubert, @ table 001. And as far as I can tell, the major pieces are now in place to run the report writer. Okay. What has not been done, as I'm looking through this, is there's a table of contents that will need to be updated, but I think we just have that as turned on, so we'll just update the table of contents as we go. There's also later on going to be the headers and footers, so we need to fix that. But at this stage, I think this is basically ready to go, so we can hit, I'm going to save this right now. I'm going to close this down. I'm going to save this. Now, I'm going to take quite the stab that this is going to work, because many times you do things don't work right off the bat, right? And I'm just going to hit create one report. Let me just double check my current parameters page. Make sure I am, everything's pointing to the right location. And we'll go ahead and give it a go. It's going to import the data, retrieve the report template, hopefully. And hopefully, if we haven't made any major mistakes, it'll be populating the charts, tables, and of course it failed. And that's the end of this video. Oh, let's see what happened. The writer failed when trying to populate chart 002. Oh, there is no chart 002. Oh, there's a chart 002. Okay, let's try that. It wasn't found. Huh, that's interesting. Well, let's find. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at that. So what happened there is chart 002 was not found. Let's go to chart ranges. Chart 002, figure 2, A23, okay. Let's go to report numbers. Did I do something wrong in the charts? Oh, I did. Bam. Everyone, maybe no one caught my mistake here. I wrote chart 2 because I just naturally, we did do an ID when we checked it and it was supposed to be chart 1. So I will not delete this video. It is a perfectly reasonable thing that when you're testing out stuff, things fail. Even in creating this, I wasn't following my own rule, which is perfect. You would write chart 2, right? We know the ID is chart 1. I will just prove it to you again. You go here, you click this, you hit chart ID. It's chart 1, right? So I just simply made a mistake. It couldn't find this chart when trying to populate the report. Perfect. So again, this actually is very helpful. This shows some of the usefulness of the report writer. A lot of effort's been put into creating error logs that actually point you to where you might have made a mistake. So we're hit save again, and then I'm just gonna run the report again. Having known that was the a hiccup, let's see. It's gonna see if there's any more hiccups. Retrieve the report template, numbers, charts. Did the charts now. Did the tables, exporting it. Bam, you've been reported. So let's go ahead and take a look. We're gonna go to, sorry, I think I'm in the wrong, our example project here. Final reports, and this one just got produced just now. Now, there's a couple little things we need to clean up, but let's go ahead and see where we stand. That's very small. Let's make that bigger. All right. So you have the company A report. That looks good. You have your table of contents. Looks good. Your table looks fantastic. The chart does not look good because I created the wrong tag. I did at pound. I did at $sign percent. Oops. And then the other chart looks good. Perfect. So there's a mistake. I love mistakes. We just simply let's go grab that template. And sorry, and we're just going to go find that little tag that I created, and there you go. I put an extra symbol. I just kept going along the top line. I think I really did go with the old Qbert symbol there. All right, we're going to save that, and I do that. It's going to fix chart 1, and we'll be good to go. So I think that's everything. Just for fun, I know the video is getting a little long, but I think this is a very useful piece. I'm going to go ahead and run the report. We're error checking, running that little mistakes, mistakes of basically, mistakes of just me typing. And it will recreate the report for you. Go ahead, take a look at it one more time, and we should have a working report. Now, we did not talk about that header. We will do that in the next video to clean up that one piece. But besides that, we should have a working report, and we will do that. There we go. There's my chart. Oh yes, notice the charts. They look beautiful. All those X's are gone. Everything looks in proper ranges. It's like magic. So there you go, everybody. We have a working report writer. The next video, we're going to do some cleanup. We're going to do the headers and footers piece. And we'll also just go ahead and loop through the report. Good to test out looping since we have 2 companies, make sure that's working. And we are done with our example project. So hopefully you survived this very important video. You understood what happened here. You're good to go, and probably you'll be a whiz on the report writing scene. All right, can't wait to see you next time.